Hey, what's up everybody? So I recently posted a video about these planetary fidget spinners, which did really well. I got a lot of attention and sold a bunch of them, so thank you everybody for that. And I wanted to come up with something a little bit different. So I decided to use 50 BMG cases on either end for a nice, evenly weighted, heavy spinner. These are significantly smaller than my other ones, and I gotta say I really like the nice compact design. And I had a bunch of these Barrett 50 BMG cases laying around from another business that I had, and these actually say Barrett on them, which is really cool. So I posted a couple pictures of this on Facebook, got a lot of attention, a lot of people wanted me to make them for them. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, and the first thing I'm going to need to do is grab a couple cases, cut them to make them a little bit shorter so that I can actually stick them in my lathe chuck and machine them down. Nothing special about this at all. I'm just going to stick a case in my vise and cut it down with a hacksaw. That's it. That's all I need to do. Now this will fit securely in my lathe's chuck. This is my inexpensive Harbor Freight lathe that I'm going to be using. I actually own a couple lathes, but this is the one that's set up, so this is what I'm going to use. I'm not going to bore you with the details because I'm sure you don't really care, but I am going to include some cool high-speed footage at 1,000 frames per second of this thing being cut, and I think that looks really cool. So these things are kind of hot when they come off. Let's take a look here. Yeah. Just a little bit. Probably wouldn't want to grab that. Well, now we have a bunch of head stamps, so it's time to go over to the laser cutter and cut out some brackets. This is the top half of the bracket we're about to cut. Each bracket's made up of 2 sheets of 1/8 inch Baltic birch plywood. And I chose Baltic birch because it's a really strong and stable material. If you go to the hardware store and you pick up even the high-end stuff, oftentimes it's full of voids, so the top sheet will look fine, but as soon as you start to cut it, you'll notice that there are little pockets. Now, if I were to cut that and I ran into a pocket, the pocket would fill up with smoke, and smoke does a fantastic job absorbing the laser's energy, and it will not pass through the other side, so the part will be ruined. So that's why I chose this material. It also looks nice. So now I have all these brackets ready to be stained, and what I like to do is use the material I cut them out of and just hold them in place so that, well, it makes my life a little bit easier. These are pieces of walnut that I just cut. I'm going to be using them for buttons. I needed to come up with some way to make buttons with my laser cutter, so this is how I did it. These will be glued together and varnished, and with a couple other bushings I can put a Chicago screw through there, and that'll provide a really nice grip. Now that the brackets are stained, varnished, and glued together, I can go ahead and start working on these head stamps a little bit. Now I want to bring them down to the exact same thickness. That way all of them weigh the same. This is just a piece of sandpaper attached to a board. So that's now completely flush. And the next step is to polish it up. The best way to do that would be on a bench grinder with a polishing wheel and some polish, but I don't have a polishing wheel for my grinder at the moment, so I'm just going to use this piece of carpeting with some semi-chrome on it. That does the job very, very quickly. As you can see, it's really, really shiny and polished now, and I just started. Alright, so they're starting to look pretty cool. I mounted the head stamps in place and pressed in a bearing. The next step is to insert these really, really tiny brass finishing nails. If you remember from the drawing, I cut a couple pilot holes in there, so that'll make my life a little bit easier, and it'll get them perfectly centered. Well, they're starting to look pretty cool. The next step is to install these buttons. These little brass screws, they're called Chicago screws. And then these are little bushings that I also cut on my laser cutter. The outside diameter of these bushings fits the inside diameter of the bearing race. So one last step before we're finished. I'm going to fill in this lettering. Let it dry for just a couple seconds, and then get some alcohol, just isopropyl alcohol, and wipe the excess off. And that makes the lettering stand out so you can actually read it. There we go. That one's finished. So I hope you enjoyed watching. Subscribe for more. I plan on coming up with different designs, and I have some in the works right now. These are available on my website at centerfiremade.com.